Hi, my name is Stephen Lees, and I'm a program manager on the Visual Basic team at Microsoft. Right now we're working on producing Visual Basic 2005, but of course the version we have out in the field is Visual Studio 2003. And one thing we know from talking to the people who use it is that people are always interested in getting great sample code, because it really helps them understand how to build applications, and it helps them get going more quickly. So one of the things that we're producing right now is something that we call the Power Pack for Visual Basic, and that's going to be available on the Visual Basic Dev Center soon on MSDN. And what it is it's a collection of controls that you can use with Visual Studio with Visual Basic 2003, and they do some cool stuff that isn't already in the box. So for instance, one of them is a notification window control. That's that MSN Messenger style pop-up that you get, so you can pop up a notification for in your application. Another one that's pretty useful is a task pane, and this is very much like the Explorer task pane that you see on the left side of an Explorer window, so that it expands and collapses and you can show additional information that's related to your main content. And there's a bunch more in there as well. We're actually going to make these available as a source distribution, so you can actually see exactly how these controls are doing everything. You can compile them and build them yourself and learn from how they work, and we encourage people to really get in there and modify them and post changes back to the VB community. So having said that, let's go to a demo and take a look at these things in action.
This is a demonstration of the Power Pack controls that we've released recently for Visual Basic. They're available right now on a got.net workspace, and very soon they'll be available on MSDN as well. When you download the Power Pack distribution, what you'll get is the set of files that you see here, and the Power Pack is a source-only distribution. So in order to get started, what you'll need to do is open up the source project, and then open up the solution in Visual Studio 2003. And what you'll see here is the set of source files that build the Power Pack controls. So what you want to do is just come over here and either right-click on your solution or go over to the Build menu and just choose Build Solution. And what that's going to do is build a DLL called the VB Power Pack into your bin directory. As you can see, that build succeeded. So what I can do now is close that down. And I've already actually built one, so I took it out of the bin directory, which is in here. There's my built DLL, and I put it up here, right here on my desktop, copied up to a more convenient location. So now what I can do is run Visual Studio 2003. Let me bring up the IDE right now, and I can create a new project that uses the Power Pack controls. So I'm going to add a reference to those first. Let me go ahead and create a new project. And this is going to be a Windows application project. Here comes my new Windows application. So what I want to do first is add a reference to that Power Pack DLL that I just built. So I'll come here to Add Reference. And I'm going to want to click on Browse. And now I just look for the desktop in the Power Pack folder. And there's the DLL. So I'll open that up, add that reference. And the other thing that you may want to do is go over to the toolbox to add remove items. And you'll actually want to browse and pick that DLL here as well. So in this case, I've already done that, and I can come down here to the bottom where the controls are added. And let's say I want to start off by adding a utility toolbar control. This is a fairly simple control that has a lot of the basic functionality that you'd find in an Explorer-like toolbar, and it's all just built in. So let me select that, switch over to Properties, and there's a simple editor here that allows me to choose the buttons that I want to see. So let's say I want to have a back button and a forward button. Maybe I'll add a separator, and then I'll put on, let's say, refresh and home. In addition, you'll see that I have a bunch of other controls to choose from, things like cut, and copy, and paste. All the common stuff, I can just go ahead and add those to my toolbar. The other thing I might want to do in this case is change the way that the text is displayed. You'll see that in the default, it just displays selective text, which means some of the controls have text. If I come back here to the property window, I can actually say that I do want to show the text labels. And now they'll all show up. So let me use a couple of the other PowerPack controls and build a pretty simple file browser. I'll scroll down to the bottom again and pick up those controls. First, I'm going to put on a folder viewer control. And I'm going to choose to dock that to the left side of my form. So there's the dock, there's the dock property, and it's on the left. Let me go ahead and add a splitter control now. And then finally, I want to add the file viewer control. Okay, and I'm going to dock that to fill the rest of the space. So I'm going to hit F5 now to run the project, and you'll see that with no code still, using the PowerPack controls that we've released, I can build a very simple file and folder viewer. There's my application, and let me make that a little bit bigger. You can see that on the right side, where the file viewer is, it's viewing my computer, and on the left side I have a tree view that's showing me the files on my disk. And again, I didn't have to write any code. These are just what these controls display by default. Now you notice there's still one problem, which is that as I'm clicking around the nodes on the folder viewer, my right side, my file viewer, isn't changing. And so I do have to write one simple line of code to make that happen. Let's come over here, back to the IDE, and I'll just double click on the folder viewer. And what I need to do is tell it, this is the node clicked event of the folder viewer. So when I click on one of those nodes, I want to tell the file viewer, which is my file viewer 1, to change its path location to be the node that I've clicked on. Just like that. So this time when I run the application, let me get that out of the way. This time when I run the application, you'll see that as I click around on the nodes in the folder viewer, that the files actually change. So here's my desktop. I can open up my documents directory. And here are my files. There are my Visual Studio projects, for instance. So there we go. With just a couple of controls and a single line of code, I've built a very functional application that looks a lot like an Explorer view. Let me come in now, and I'll show you the sample app that we've released with the PowerPack, which is maybe a little bit more of a business-style application that's using those controls that I just showed, as well as a few more. So this is source code that, again, is released with the PowerPack, and you can come in and open up the solution file. There we go. And here's a business form that's using everybody's favorite data, the Northwind database, just to show how you can display that data. On the right side, I have another PowerPack control, which is called a task pane. And this has an Explorer-like view with expanding and collapsing panes. And over on the other corner here, you can see that utility toolbar on the top. On the other corner, I have some transparent image buttons, and these are another set of PowerPack controls that just have a transparent background, and you can put any image you like there. So let's go ahead and run that application. And up it comes. And you can see that, let me just maximize that to fit the screen. You can see that I've got my standard data. I can move forward and backward using these buttons on the form. I can also move forward and backward using my utility toolbar. If I want to see more information, I can expand that order summary. And then sometimes those things happen. So you can see that I can collapse the supplier info and expand that again, just as in the Explorer style. And then there's one other control that I'll show you. As I move forward here, you'll notice that when the discontinued item pops up, I get that red screen, and over here I get a Windows Messenger style notification that we call a toast notification that pops up, it sort of opens up there, and then it goes away again. So if anytime I move on to a discontinued record, I'll get that display. Let's see that again. And then, of course, it just holds for a defined number of seconds that you can specify in the notification, and then it goes away again. And of course, if you move off, then it's gone. So that's just a quick overview of the PowerPack controls. Hope you find that useful. And again, go ahead and check them out. They're available right now on the got.net workspace, and they'll be available very soon on MSDN as well. So hope you enjoy those. Thanks.
So there you go. That was the PowerPack for Visual Basic 2003 in action. I hope you found that interesting. And as I said, those controls will be available in source form up on the MSDN Visual Basic Dev Center pretty soon. And I encourage you to take a look and learn from them, and I hope it helps you build applications, more interesting ones, and more quickly. Also, while you're up there, I encourage you to take a look on the Dev Center for information about Visual Basic 2005. There's a lot of great new stuff in there based on the feedback that we've heard from lots of Visual Basic developers, and it even helps you do things a lot more quickly and get at the power of the framework in some great new ways. So I hope you enjoy that too. Thank you very much, and thanks for watching.